YouTube, here to finally give my review on the CZ P-01 Omega. This is the aluminum version of the 75. The frame is going to be a little bit thicker. Capacity is 14+1. Barrel length is 3.9 inches. Comes with rubber grips. And in the Omega variant, it has a slide length rear sight. It has a forward swept decocker that is ambidextrous. The P-01s come with a rubber base plate on the magazines, and the Omega has a different action. You can check out my other video comparing my traditional 75 action to the Omega action. Let's throw it on the table and talk about the experience so far. So here's my P-01 Omega. These are a little bit of a unicorn and difficult to find in the current gun buying environment. This is the second one of these I have seen in person. I saw my first one back right after they were introduced at, I believe, 2 SHOT Shows ago. Never saw another one since until I got to this one. So all in all, I like the pistol. The frame is thicker than the 75 steel frames. The frame is also more comfortable than the traditional 75 frames. It's relieved. You can get a little bit higher up under the trigger guard. It is much more comfortable in hand. Coupled with these very excellent rubber grips, it is a very, very ergonomic shooting pistol. The grips have a nice palm swell to them, a great texture. It won't hurt your hand any, but it's not going to budge when you're wrapped on trying to get on target either. The rubber does grab your shirt, so if you're wearing like a cotton t-shirt or something like that, that is going to be an issue for you, but it's not the end of the world. As I mentioned, they have slide length rear sights, but what's also interesting about them is, I don't know if you can see that there, but there's a number 5 stamped on it. The way CZs do their sighting is that all the front sights are the same, and then they adjust the point of impact up or down with the rear sight height. So my compact, for instance, has a number 4 rear sight on it, and so if I wanted to lower the point of impact of this pistol, I could just go buy a number 4 rear sight, swap it out, and lower the point of impact for it. But this actually hits point of aim, point of impact. I'm pretty pleased with how it hits, so I'm not going to be changing the rear sight. The sights are pretty good. They're made out of steel, provide a pretty good sight picture. They've got the glow-in-the-dark dots that you can charge with a flashlight and then they'll glow. I would not go so far as to call those night sights. I guess it's nicer than just white paint, but really isn't going to do the job of night sights. If you're somebody who absolutely has to have night sights on a carry pistol, then these sights would be coming off for you. If you've never changed sights on a CZ before and don't own a sight pusher, I would encourage you to pay somebody who has a sight pusher to put those on. It is terrible. As far as the trigger is concerned, the shape of the Omega trigger is a little bit flatter. If you're one of the people who really appreciates a nice flat face trigger, then you're going to like that. However, this is, as I've mentioned, an aluminum frame pistol that is intended to be lighter than its steel framed big brother. The trigger pull in double action, tested it with a Lyman digital trigger gauge in a vise, average of 5 pulls, is over 12 pounds. I know that because that's how high a digital trigger gauge goes, and it had topped out the Lyman. So in double action, it is actually quite difficult to pull this straight to the rear because it is so heavy and the frame is so light. In single action, however, the single action breaks right at about just underneath 5 pounds, and I expect that that will too lighten up with use. So as the contact points get a little bit polished, I can expect that to go down. Double action probably isn't going to drop a lot. I've dry fired this a lot. The trigger return spring has not broken, just doing tons and tons and tons of double action because, as I mentioned, the double action was a bit of a bear for me to learn. So this is not a very forgiving, new guy friendly trigger if you are going to shoot it from double action. So might as well just kind of dive in. This has got all the other same issues as the other CZs. It has a short throat chamber, so if you like reloading and 124 grain projectiles, you're going to have to load pretty short, same as all the other CZs. As far as answering all the questions that always come up on all of the CZ discussions on somebody trying to buy one of the aluminum framed ones, which one should I get? Let's just run down the list real quick and do a quick comparison. So should you buy this or a traditional P-01? If you really want to have a P-01, whichever one you can get your hands on first is probably going to be okay. the shape of the traditional P-01 decocker is going to be on the left side of the frame only. So if you're lefty, you're not going to like that. And it's rear swept. I don't like where that is because it's exactly where my thumb flags when I'm firing the pistol, which is why I opted for the Omega, which sits more like a safety and is forward swept. That said, the Omega will not necessarily share all the holsters with the traditional 75 P-01. I had to actually relieve a holster I bought for a regular P-01 because the right side decocker was getting into the holster body just a little bit and it wasn't letting it lock into the holster. So that's something to be aware for if you are ordering a holster for the Omega. Be sure and specify that it is an Omega, and if you're going to do it cocked and locked, you're probably better ought to tell them too, because it needs to account for the safety being up and being ambidextrous. So it's kind of a wash. The rear sight's going to be cheesier on the traditional 75. You're going to have the black recurve trigger that's going to be on the SP-01s. You're going to have the same excellent magazines with the rubber base plates. This only comes on the P-01s, and you can buy these for other magazines. You can get them from CZ USA's website, or more readily from gregcoatllc.com. That's a good place to buy Metgar magazines for your CZ pistols and any other pistol you need Metgar mags for. So from the P-01 to the PCR, the people were like, well, the PCR doesn't have the full-length rail, and it's lighter and all this. It's not that much lighter, and the frame thickness is identical between the pistols. It's going to have the same decocker as the P-01 with the same trigger as the P-01. So really it's going to come down to which do you like better. The two things you're going to have to deal with is the super cheesy rear sight that comes on the stock P-01s. It's a unique cut for any CZ. It only comes in that configuration. For a long time, nobody made sights for it. You can buy them now through like True Glow TFXs, as well as I think Muprolite finally makes some, and CZ Custom makes some excellent sights for the PCR. So there's that to contend with. PCR also comes with a loaded chamber indicator. Some people really don't like that, so that's something you'd have to consider as well. It's going to have the same excellent rubber grips. The base plates are going to be sheet metal, and they're going to dig into your pinky when you shoot them, and you're going to go buy these. So while the PCR is less costly than the P-01, you have to add on the cost of these base plates, because in my experience, you're going to buy them anyway. As far as the 75 Compact is concerned, you now have swapped to a steel frame. The 75 Compact is going to have the high power cuts in the frame and the slide to make the slide a little bit lighter. It's going to be about 4 ounces heavier. It's going to settle down faster in a recoil. So what that means is you're going to fire a shot. The muzzle flip is going to be identical. There's not going to be an appreciable difference in muzzle flip, but the pistol is going to settle down out of recoil faster, at least in my experience. The timing of the gun and how quickly I could get a good read on my sights and track the dot was better when comparing it to my 75 Compact. The Compact was better than this. However, it's 4 ounces heavier. This is much easier to carry. The frames are thinner for the steel frame 75s, and so I don't use a trackline belt or anything like that. So when I put on it the same inside the waistband holster, I've got one of each for the Compact and one for this as well. My pants fit tighter with the P-01. I can actually appreciate the difference in thickness of the frames. So that's just something to be considered. The Compact, steel Compact, is about the least costly metal frame CZ you can get, but it's also going to come with your cheesy sheet metal base plate, so you're going to have to upgrade those. It's going to come with plastic grips in place of rubber. I don't mind the plastic grips. I think they're fine. So that's just something to consider. But all in all, any of the Compacts are going to fit this hand about the same. As I mentioned, I have size large glove hands. You can see there where my pinky kind of gets to on those pistols. So if you've got larger hands than that, or just really need your pinky to be all the way on the frame, these grips are going to be a little bit too short. They're honestly really good analogs for the Glock 19. They're very similar in size. So that being said, the P-01, if you're somebody who absolutely needs your fingers on the frame, as I mentioned, the P-01's a good choice. You've got the interchangeable back straps on the P-01. You've got the full ambi. You're going to have the flat trigger face. You're going to have the same rear sights, same hammer shape, all of the other nice things about the P-07. The difference is going to be the magazines. Magazines for the P-07 are significantly more expensive. They're about $40–$30 a piece versus if you buy Mechgar steel magazines for your CZs, they're going to range between about 23 and 27 bucks. So that's something to consider. The slides are chunkier on the P-07. The thickness is probably, I don't know if it's the same or if a little bit larger on the P-07, but there's that. One thing that is nice about the P-07 is it doesn't have the little barrel link that will shear slide stops with enough use. You know, tens of thousands of rounds, you need to replace slide stops on the traditional 75s, and I'm assuming that this is going to be the same. So you won't have that issue on the P-07. As far as people who are CZ curious looking at their first CZ, this gun is going to feel better in your hand than any of the striker guns you've probably held. You can change out grips, and that's going to appeal to your aesthetic sense because you can get some really outrageous grips that are pretty cool. The trigger pull, as I mentioned, it's not beginner friendly trying to shoot this from double action, and you're going to have to spend time. I shoot, as I've mentioned in all my videos, I shoot about 1,000 rounds a month or more depending on the month, and this took adjusting for me. It's not a big deal for me now, but I also put the work in and dry fired it a bunch and honestly live fired it a bunch. So that's not a big issue for me. You owe it to yourself to get the pistol that you can shoot best, especially for a carry pistol. Could you use this in competition? Yes, you can use it in competition. I wouldn't necessarily go that route. If you're trying to pull double duty with a competition pistol, if you're a big enough guy, I would recommend getting to a like CZ75B, a P-09, any of those other longer slide, 4.5 inch barrel type pistols. You can carry those. It's not that much different. It's just the grip. You're negotiating the grip length that's going to be your issue, and maybe the additional muzzle length will cause a problem for you if you're inside the waistband, but maybe it won't. It's kind of tough to say go to the store and try them on, but I carry this full-size 75B and it's not an issue for me. I really like this pistol. I like double single pistols, so I can recommend it enthusiastically. If you are cut from similar cloth, if you're CZ curious and you're coming to it, as I've mentioned, I can't really recommend this pistol to you because the double action, you're going to be dropping all your shots in double action. So get something you can hit with out of the holster. But that's the Omega. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching it. If you've got any other review questions, anything like that, please leave comments. Happy to discuss them. If you're on the fence about going and shooting your first action pistol match, please just jump out there and go shoot that match. As again, always like, subscribe, and appreciate your time.